Right. Right. You start. Right.
Okay. Uh, Namaskar, everyone. Good evening. My name is Munish Chawla. I am the co-founder of Jeevitam, a livelihood platform. Welcome to all of you on the webinar of the webinar series Student Banega
You
Atma
start.
Nirbhar.
Right.
Okay. Namaskar, everyone. Good evening. My name is Munish Chawla. I am the co-founder of Jeevitam, a livelihood platform. Katie, can I start?
Yes. Yes. Please. Please.
Okay. Uh, Good evening to everyone. My name is Munish Chawla. I'm the co-founder for Jeevitam, livelihood platform. Welcome to our webinar series, Student Banega Atma Nirbhar. We have been doing this webinar for the last uh, now, and this is our 16th webinar, which we have been doing, where we are trying to help students find sustainable livelihood. We have been getting a lot of support and response from you, which is encouraging us to do this webinar every week, week after week, every Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. Every week we bring in, very eminent speakers. This week also we have got two personalities, towering personalities with us who have done tremendous amount of work in their own field. Basically, what we are trying to do while we are doing these webinars is we are in this students who are right now looking for livelihood, trying to help them, find that sustainable livelihood. That is the focus of these webinars which we are doing. And when we are doing these webinars, we are basically asking five broad questions. And these questions are as follows, we are asking this question whether in this ongoing crisis, where the colleges are closed, corporates are not traveling, and students are at home, can we do this college placement drive? When we are trying to reimagine the college placement process, we are saying why college placement has to be done for only for BA, MBA, and BTech students. Why not for BA, BCom, and BSc students also? When we are trying to reimagine the college placement process, we are saying why it has to be done only for the students who are graduating. Why not for first year, second year, third year students also? And why not, we do it, give them opportunities as internship, apprenticeship, part-time, freelancer. There's so much to do for these students, while they are studying, and get a work ready. And lastly, why college placement drive has to be done only once in a year. Why not we do these college placement drives, month after month, every month in every college of our country? That's the vision which we carry. We are looking at, these college placement drives being done for every student in the country and help them make help become Atmanirbhar. That is the mission statement which we are following up, and that is the vision which we are carrying and going forward. We are getting, as I said, a lot of support. For the people who have joined for the first time, I'll just give a broad overview as to what is Jeevitam. Jeevitam is a tech-enabled livelihood platform where we are helping find, the vulnerable segment and the entry-level work opportunities for students. We have at present around 1.5 crore work seekers on our platform, and these numbers are increasing every month. We will be soon having around 10 crore work seekers on the platform. We'll be one of the largest in the country. We are also looking at, when we are helping find livelihood opportunities, It is not only in certain parts. We are working over in 100,000 odd cities and towns across the country. In this crisis, which is there, which was in the last 9 months, we had helped around 1 million candidates, with the relevant work opportunities during these COVID times also. When everything is not doing good, we could manage to help a lot of, over 1 million candidates do that. We work in collaboration with the Labor Ministry, who are our also partner to this ongoing webinar series. We work with top corporates, philanthropy firms like IBM and all we are doing. And soon we'll be having, big multilateral institutions also being part of, like UNICEF being part of this platform. So I'm very happy to have, the eminent speakers over here. I am looking forward for interacting with them. And Vanita, welcome, to this platform. Over to you, KG.
Thanks, Manish. I think before we proceed, we can play our
स्कूल की लाइन में लगे एक आंख बंद किए इधर उधर ताकते, इसका मतलब शायद मालूम ही नहीं था। कॉलेज की भीड़ में दोस्तों के साथ ठाके लगाते भी कामयाबी पानी तो थी, मगर हम होंगे कामयाब ये सोचने की ना जरूरत थी ना मौका। माँ की नसीहतें और पिता के सहारे के बीच हम होंगे कामयाब के मायने समझना थोड़ा मुश्किल था। हम होंगे कामयाब का असली मतलब तो तब समझ आया जब जिंदगी ने हाथ छुड़ाकर कहा, ये तुम्हारी लड़ाई है, सिर्फ तुम्हारी। लड़ो, गिरो, उठो, फिर लड़ो, फिर गिरो, फिर उठो, अगर उठ सको। लड़ने ने, गिरने ने और गिरकर उठने ने हिम्मत तो जगाई ही, साथ ही जगाया यकीन। और इस यकीन को हकीकत बनाने में आपके साथ है जीवतम।
अब परिवर्तन लाना है, लक्ष्य तो हमें पाना है, होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। होंगे कामयाब एक दिन, होंगे कामयाब एक दिन।
आइए मिलकर भारत को कामयाब बनाते हैं।
सरकार की सहायता रोजगार के साथ जोड़ करके नई इकाइयों के लिए सरकार अब योजना बनाएगी। देश में रोजगार के अवसर बढ़े, उस पर हम बल देना चाहते हैं।
होंगे कामयाब।
So welcome everyone again to the 16th webinar in the series Jeevitam Path to Livelihood. The intention of the entire series is to help the students across the country to interact with
स्कूल की
the industry,
स्कूल की
stalwarts in the industry who will share not only their life experiences, but also help us understand what needs to be done in these really challenging times of COVID. And as we head towards a vaccine, life still is not going to be normal for some time. And today can't be a better day. We have two great, exceptionally brilliant and accomplished women who are going to speak to us, who engage with the youngsters in their working life. And what we will see is that how they bring in their experience to the benefit of the student community and help them understand the path ahead towards their own livelihood. So welcome Anita and Vanita to this 16th webinar of ours.
Thank you.
Introducing Anita and Vanita to all of us. Anita has been there for about 37 years in the management consulting field, a stalwart in every right of the sense in the HR domain. And I have seen her personally for about 3 decades now. In fact, the first company I joined, the first experience I had was when she was with A. Ferguson, and they came in and transformed the way the company I worked in, Godrej, at that point of time. Since then, the company that she heads as a CEO, Cerebrus, has completed 25 years last month. Startup in an era where startup word was never used, an era when women actually led an organization. And over the years, She has led a firm that's been consulting over 300 companies across multiple countries, apart from India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Cambodia, and in the Middle East. She has provided professional support and coaching to many entrepreneurs. I think this group of students who are watching us today are going to benefit a lot. I encourage you to ask questions if you have plans to create jobs for India as it moves towards a $5 trillion economy. I think questions need to be asked now so that you help us build this nation into the future. She's also an independent director on the board of multiple companies, Goddess and Boys, Rane Madras, Kotak Life Insurance, and many others. And she's a trustee of the Dignity Foundation. So welcome, Anita. I think any length of words to describe you are not going to be enough. I think when you speak, let's see you spellbound the audience. That's what we're going to see.
Thank you, Mohan, for calling. It's very nice to be here.
Great. And then we have Vanita Datra. And to see a woman leader, a managing director and vice chairman of Elico Limited, if you look at her profile, it's outstanding. Outstanding and astounding, both the words, two adjectives to be used. Apart from her extremely well-networked experience that she had, and the way she has been involved in CII at the regional level, and also leading the women's initiatives there, she has been an avid health enthusiast in every sense of the word. And every time I read her profile, I realized how much I had to do in my lifetime to come anywhere close to that. Except for thinking of walking, I have never walked the kind of effort she has made in athletics. So 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, and 200 kilometers runs. And she has been a marathon runner. She also has trekked. She's a dual athlete. She has been to the Everest base camp. And I am sure, Vanita, these experiences must have played a role in the leadership that you have led over the years. And I think we'll like to hear about that. What also astonishes me is that apart from being involved in running an organization and in sports, you have the right side of the brain in terms of playing the piano, and Carnatic classical music. So I think the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain, the entire brain has been used so much. I think people are going to really benefit from this. Students are going to watch out and ask you questions, especially to understand how does one get into a career from a college environment, especially in troubled times, and how does one keep one's sanity over the years? That's what we look forward to you, Vanita, to share with us. I think we couldn't have found any better speaker than both of you for today. So Vanita, welcome to the 16th webinar again, and Path to Livelihood is very close to our heart. Just to give you a perspective, about 80% of this country lives in the hinterland. And the colleges that are in the tier 2 and tier 3 towns and cities, they don't benefit from leadership speaking to them directly. I think it's a great opportunity. And just to remind you again, there's a large audience from Bishop Heber College, Trishnapalli, from where you hail from. I think I just shared this with the placement coordinator today, Anita, and they're looking forward to you a lot to share with her your connects with Trishnapalli and also your thoughts and feelings about how the city brought you up at one point of time in life. Over to you. So let me start and kick off the questions with Anita. So Anita is like this, that from what I have known about you, you have been an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. I think entrepreneurship runs in your blood. So the question I want further is that, why did you start off that little later in life and not right at the beginning when you came out of college?
Yeah, Mohan, that's a question I asked myself many times, because I can tell you when I was completing my MBA, I had this, vision that I would go set up a small IT company. But what happens is that we come from conservative families where people say, get into a job. It was my mom telling me, you have to get into State Bank of India, because that was her whole concept of a good private sector job. And she was very disappointed at the choice of joining a consulting company. So I think it took a little while to, managed to get everyone on board. And I'll still say that when I finally took the call, actually when my children were a bit older and completing schooling, I won't say that I had the immediate, support of family. There was a lot of hesitation about, is this a good thing to do? And remember, 25 years ago, starting a business had a little negative connotation. Working in a company or being in service is always considered better. So I at least feel very great that today we have such a wonderful startup, environment. I'll also just add that, it takes a lot of passion and courage to decide that, you will try to make your livelihood by entrepreneurship, because obviously the risks are much higher. And I think I needed personally a little more courage to get to that stage of saying that I could take that financial risk.
Great. I think that's a good start and warming up our session. So Munish, over to you to pick Anita's brains now.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Anita. I missed welcoming you. I realized it. So happy to have you on this. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So welcome to this webinar series, and we are honored to have you over here. Okay. Vanita, this question, I'm putting this question to you, and again, a big warm welcome to you also. I'm so honored to have you on this webinar series. And, the first time I met you, and I saw so much of energy, so much of passion, so much of vision which you carry and you bring it on the, table with us. I've worked with you in CI last year, in a lot of forums, a lot of webinars together. So really happy to have you on this webinar. And for these students, I think they are going to take a lot from you today. My question to you, which has been there, is, in today's environment, what you feel is, and what is your understanding on the responsibility of the millennials is something we would like to hear from you. Vanita.
Thank you, Manishji, and thank you, Mohan. It's actually a pleasure to be on this platform, sharing the dice with Anita, whose profile is really illustrious. And I will definitely learn too from the interaction that is happening all around. It's really nice to understand Jeevitam's journey and its ambition to reach out to students in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 towns to enable them to get into the workspace. Yes, you did mention about the millennials, and there are a lot of negative connotations when it comes to the millennials, which is quite sad when we understand. Definitely for those of us who have crossed 4 or 5 decades on this planet, we tend to have that condescending nature when we talk about the millennials. But what we need to understand is the millennials bring a lot of positivity and they bring a lot of energy to the entire system, to the entire workplace. How will corporations tomorrow, how will organizations utilize that energy to enable a better world for us going forward? That is what we will have to see. I've been part of many discussions where a lot of, especially the HR community always throws up in the air the challenges that they have been facing when they recruit, because concepts like loyalty, like longevity with an organization don't bode well for the millennials currently, which I think as an organization or as a society, we need to evolve. Gone are the days where a person joins a company and then they join the company for life. Today, we are looking at breadth of experience, we are looking at depth of experience, and we're looking at a multidisciplinary approach. Unless an employee jumps probably from organization to organization, once they get exposed to different perspectives, to different experiences, that itself brings a lot of value add to the next corporation that he or she will join. So in my perspective, millennials have a lot of things that are available to them today with the advent of technology, with the world that is connected today. If you had asked me when I was growing up, what is my future going to look like? I mean, I didn't even know how my future would look like. I couldn't even dream. I couldn't even have an ambition. All that I thought is, I wish I could get a job and I wish I could work somewhere. Of course, I did come from a very conservative family, a conservative business family, in fact. Though having a business, family business, somehow family members never groomed women in our family to actually join them in the business itself. So I tended to take a different path compared to all the women in my family. I was the one who broke shackles, and I was able to bring that guts to go and ask my grandfather those days that I would like to come and work for you. Though I'm not qualified, though I don't have experience, please give me an entry so that I can start making some sort of value to the company. That sort of a problem is definitely not there in today's society. Today, there are huge opportunities. It is just at the beck and call of the students today, the young employees today. What I would suggest is that they have a very, very open mind, that they do not have closed, rigid, structured connotations of where they would like to go. Especially post the pandemic, when the entire global economy has become, it's become volatile, it's become unpredictable. It's very difficult for you to have a structured set of steps that you could probably take and then ensure that you'll be able to achieve those. It might take you some time. It might be difficult in the initial stages. So my advice would be to just jump in wherever it is possible. Try to get your foot into the door, so that once you get an entry, then you prove with your merit, you prove with your capacity to learn, you prove with your aptitude that you will be able to add more value going forward. And then you can always pivot as and when the time is right to actually start achieving your dreams. So I'll stop there, Monishji.
Thank you. Anita, I think, as I said, you always amaze me with your the kind of work you do. But also today, I'm very happy to know about your background as to, how you really broke those shackles. And I belong to a business family, and I understand what you are saying. Women were never, I belong to a family, we are not as conservative as we will say, but still, yes, it was not allowed for women to work, and it was not thought that they can come into the business, which is there. I think things are changing, for good, and there are a lot of opportunities coming and women like you are true inspiration for us, for all the girls out there who are listening to you. I think they are going to, that's why, you inspire a lot of those. Now, Anita ma'am, I'm going to come to you. We are basically talking about entrepreneurship, and, instead of work seeker, work provider is the way forward. In today's country, we need more. But the entrepreneurship is also taking a lot of different shapes, which is, it's coming out in the form of gig economic workers, you are a freelancer, which is a business, you are like a businessman, if you are a freelancer, because you are not working for someone, you're working for many, that is for a given thing. So a lot of people are looking at, when there are not many jobs around, it is, this is one of the big opportunities which is coming up. And startups, definitely, I run a startup, so startups is also becoming a very, very good way to, look at implementing ideas which these students really have. So, but, when you do this, there are certain things which you should be very, conscious about, or, you should be very careful about. What do you think are those things, these students should keep in mind, when they are looking for the quest of their entrepreneurship? Anita, over to you.
So Munishi, thank you for asking this question. I didn't really want to belabor what it was to start 25 years ago, because it is a different startup environment, and today is a very different startup environment. About 10 years ago, when my son was studying college, after doing first year, he went to US. He suddenly came home on vacation and he said, I'm not going back to college. I'm going to do a startup. And those were the days when, .com, all that was also very high. And he said, And my husband was totally, shocked and angry. And, we had all the fights, at home. And I told him, okay, son, you do it, but you just promise me that you will go back to college after 2 years, because you will find in life that you need, education. And like all young people, we had this fight, what does education teach you? If you do, if you prove and everything. So I told him, I said, you can start, but see, I'm not going to give you more than 50,000 rupees. And so you've got to first understand that you have to do whatever you can with that, and anything else you need to earn. As everything, he with another co-founder started up, they started up one youth site and, in this .com age. Now, the point of my telling you the story is the whole thing lasted only 10 months. There was this huge hype. They went up to, about 65 people, and were very successful in putting up the site, getting a huge lot of hits, traction, over 1 million, everything. And then Sony became interested and, wanted to buy them out, which they did eventually. But, so after 8 months, he had to fire all those 60, 65 people he hired, because Sony said, we want it with just 25 people. And he came back and he told me, okay, I'm now ready to go back to college. And he did that. So I asked him, son, so what did you learn out of, doing this startup? And he told me, when I started I was very clear I wanted to do, philosophy and maths in college. Now I am very clear I should do economics and finance, because the one thing I learned was that it is easy to actually program, code, get a site out, get a service out, but it's very difficult to finally know to handle the finances, how to, handle the markets and so on. And I think that's what I need to learn. And so why I said this is that, a lot of people, and I engage with a lot of young people who, come out from college, have great ideas for products and services, are quick to actually bring it up, and then don't know, how am I going to get this to market? How am I going to get the volumes? And how am I going to see my revenue stream? So remember, this has been the bane of a lot of our startups. So why I'm saying this is, I think that for anyone wanting to, start, I think that if you want to, start a product, start a service, you really need to think through your revenue model a little bit more. And you need to have some basic good commercial orientation. And I found even in my own life that, I worked for, 19 years before I actually started my own venture. And I found that the main learning for me, even as I started then, was, well, how do you actually manage your finances? How do you actually get to, market and sustain relationships? And if you're doing anything in scale with lots of people thinking of products and services, that issue is even lots more important. So what I would say is, it's very important, as I said before, you need to be passionate about what you want to do. I think it's very important that you think about, you realize that money is not just going to come. People read all these great stories about entrepreneurship, and, like my son are thinking, I'm going to make my first million in the first 6 months. And the reality is not like that. The reality is that, you may, be successful, but it may take you 2-3 years before you see the first million. Till that time, you're only spending money and you're only hunting how to raise money. And therefore, it's very important to be realistic about that. I think the other big challenge, and since Munishi, you said you run startups and you know that, getting and holding a team is very difficult. Unfortunately, and I really feel we are talking to students, I think unfortunately everyone wants to have a very secure, safe environment and would like to see the security of getting a steady, salary. And I think I find it very sometimes disappointing that very bright people who can stand in their own stead still will not take risk, because risk And financial risk requires a different mindset. And, I find that there are only some people who have that mindset of risk taking. For a lot of people, having that safe cash flow is very important. So I think you should also know that about yourself. How much is your ability to withstand financially from a practical point of view? And how much is your mindset being able to handle the kind of pressure of uncertainty? You have to have that mindset to handle that. I think that's really important. I think today's startup environment actually has easy access to finance. You have a good idea. You have a reasonably good business. I think money is available today, unlike what it was in my time. But to sustainably get money, it's a different story. You'll be able to raise the first round, but you'll have to show something to be able to raise the second round. And therefore, that thinking beyond the first few months is very important, I think.
That's quite interesting, Anita. I think what you said was true. But I think 2 or 3 points that you brought up was that first you start with dream in your eyes, and you want to become an entrepreneur, and then you realize that most probably the skills that I require to become an entrepreneur don't exist with me. That's what I think the Karthik story has been.
Yes.
And the good news is change. The importance in this entire game is that you change directions or you change your way of looking quick. It's actually being nimble on your feet to start and accepting that what you started off is not the right direction. So as Munish will always say, in our own game in Jeevitam, we constantly ask ourselves, are we going in the right direction? And the moment we find that certain actions are not yielding results, it's time to change the efforts you're putting in so that we don't go in the wrong path for too long a distance. And financial risks too have to be within boundaries, and you need to have the ability and the gumption to take those risks. Quite interesting for the students who want to create jobs. But coming back to you, Vanita, from a different aspect altogether, the question I have for you is that what kind of jobs are in the workplace? What has happened in the economy over years is that both of us sit into IT cities, and what we realize is that the whole world thinks that IT jobs are the only jobs available, and are tending beyond that. And then again, people look at only a few companies and say that if my life doesn't come into these companies, do I see a dead end? For example, if you're at Facebook or Apple or Amazon or Google or Microsoft, is there life beyond that at all? And what are your thoughts around that?
So, Mohan,
Mohan. No, Mohan. Yeah, go ahead, Anita.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Vanita. You answer. I'll speak after you.
Okay. So, right, Mohan, I know today's youngsters have these stars in their eyes, and a lot of them that I have interacted with feel that if post their graduation, and most of them do finish their engineering streams, a few of them, even from the management streams, also feel that once they get into these top IT or tech companies, that their life is made. And they don't realize that this is again, a short term. Technology is advancing at giga speeds today. And probably another decade, whatever jobs are available today might totally change. And the requirement and the requisite skills that if you do not upskill yourself, if you do not open yourself to learning better skills, newer skills, and creating a value for yourself at the workplace, you might again tend to get automated, you might tend to get replaced by automation, by whatever technological advances are happening at these places. Today, yes, India is known to be the back office code writers for the rest of the world. Unfortunately, our talent is much more than that. Unfortunately, another statistic that I can quote is that most of the world's R&D centers are in India, and we have our youngsters actually creating R&D for the rest of the world. We are not doing that for our own country, for our own companies, for our own technologies. And that is where I think we seem to be losing out. what we will have to understand going forward, and I know it's a huge ask of the youngsters today, because youngsters today are not looking that much further into their future. They probably are looking at the next 4 years or the next 5 years. Once they graduate, which is the first job that they get. Beyond the job, what is their career path? Of course, marriage will be on the cards, and then getting a dream home, a dream vehicle. So while you do cross those steps, you will also have to understand as how is the demographic dividend of this nation going to help in repositioning our own country? Because today, if you look at India per se, the asset that our country has is this particular section of the population. And if this population goes and takes those correct decisions and moves in the correct direction, then our country will definitely gain from that. If not, we will again start creating value only for the rest of the other countries, maybe the Western nations, the more developed nations, and we will continue to be that low performing, no value add to our own country, which is not going to help us. So somehow I feel that the academic sector or the corporate sector will have to bring about this reality to the current youngsters so that they understand how it is that they move in future. Anita, you also wanted to add something to this, so please go ahead.
I want to add something that was very here and now, probably for the audience, and that is just this, that, there are opportunities not just in the IT sector. If you look around you today, healthcare is definitely going to be the area of focus for all of us for the next 2-3 years. And, there are so many jobs in healthcare that need so many different qualifications. I think that many of the students here, probably many of you are also not engineers. And I want you to just know that, there is not just one qualification that is engineering. You're in Bangalore, you're in Chennai, engineering seems to be the only qualification that is, available, and that is, the focus. I, want to say to you that look at, what is happening in education, look at what is happening in healthcare. I mean, of course, when I say healthcare, there's also the pharma companies. There are a large number of companies in these sectors that are recruiting. So unlike Mohan, what you said, Apple, Microsoft, yes, they are the big and, the dreams there, but there are lots of other small companies out there, besides IT and all these smaller sectors that are actually doing a lot of interesting work. And I think as a student, my question always will be that what do you want to do in your first 5 years? It's very important for you to have your own objectives. As every stage in life, you should, think. So I think the first 5 years, you should really be focused on trying to get, maximum, knowledge, and trying to figure out what is it that really interests you. I mean, are you really interested in, R&D? Are you interested in sales? What your area that you want to focus on? You never know these things till you actually start working. Many times in college, we have a very different idea of what it is. I qualified, in finance, and I'm working today in HR. I never did HR. I think, in hindsight, I might have loved to have done marketing, and probably that is something I would have been, equally successful for, because till you get into it, you really don't know what it is. And so I think if your objective is to get the maximum learning, which is what it should be in the first 5 years, I think you shouldn't be over concerned about money. Though I know all of us, when we are young and we're independent, the first thing you want to know is how quickly is the money in hand growing. I think you should actually not prioritize it, because money will come eventually if you are, got the right skills, as Vanita was saying. So choose the first 5 years thinking that, and think of all these sectors in India. There is tremendous opportunity in many of the newer sectors that are coming, and there are many more emerging sectors that are coming. I mean, we are just seeing healthcare and education now in COVID times. And I know there's a huge lot of other sectors that will, emerge. And that opportunity is there also for non-engineers. Before the whole COVID story, remember, retail was such a big boom, and it totally employed only people who were not even graduates, I would say. And so, there are opportunities in many sectors. It's for you to think about. that. Manish had mentioned this thing about gig workers and so on, and in talking of entrepreneurship, I will say I don't always think of gig workers as entrepreneurship. I think it is only a flexible work model that people have, either as individuals or companies, encourage. And I think that we have to bear in mind, going forward, that most companies are going to hire a lot of people below 5 years experience, on that contract or gig model. So it may not be your choice. It may be also just how the environment is. And I think you should not feel afraid of it. If that learning opportunity on that is great, you should take it. You will eventually find your way to, what you will say, the comfort, secure jobs. But you should not be afraid, I would say, of taking the learning opportunities in the first few years.
Let me also add, Mohan, just before you continue, let me also add a couple more points. So for the students especially, and for these students that are from the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 towns, where industry is really not very present, or you may not have too many firms. How does one consciously seek out such opportunities? How does one seek out assignments in firms? And when we look at opportunities, we tend to look at probably platforms like LinkedIn, or we look at other platforms through the network that we have. We talk to people who are already at the workplace and try to somehow get an opportunity to get into those places. The other thing that I would like to probably point out, especially for the Tier 2 and to the Tier 3 students, is to also look into your own towns. Look at what are the firms that are available. Go and visit them, the district industry center, for example. Get a list of all the industries. I'm sure there are a lot of engineering firms. There are a lot of manufacturing activity happening. It may not be on the large scale, but medium and small scale is very, very relevant to you, because as Anita mentioned, that multidisciplinary approach in getting your skills aligned at this very young age becomes a value add. It becomes an asset to you as you grow in your career. Today, yes, if you are an engineer, or if you are in management, or if you have a liberal arts degree, getting an exposure to the real workplace skills, whether it is in finance, whether it is in HR, whether it is dealing with legal departments, with government departments, the taxation, whether it is GST, having a hands-on approach in these areas will definitely give you that added edge when you actually get into a bigger firm or into a bigger organization, because that experience and that wealth of knowledge that you otherwise will not get in sitting in a classroom will help you set yourselves apart. So I would like to encourage all of you to start looking around yourselves. Talk to your friends, talk to your friends, parents, if they have their own small companies, or they have firms, or and that's how you build your network. And unless you start doing that consciously, it becomes very, very difficult for you to just apply, put in an application and expect to get a call, an interview call, or to get some sort of a requirement from the workspace.
I think well said, Vanita. I think you brought about the context of networking important, right, from the student point itself. And the multiple colleges also have various kinds of clubs that they have. And that becomes also a great start networking in the industry. Anita, from your perspective, I think rightly said, was Dr. Devi Shetty about 2 years back said the US, the #1 job provider is healthcare, much before COVID came in. Yes. And now, and that's how the India too is going to run. And just to give you an example, this morning there was a blood test to be done at home. And this gentleman, Abdul, came in, walked in. He starts his day at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. He comes from ThyroCare, the Bombay-based organization. And these guys, he's been running this for the last 10 years. So he gets up at 5:30, he walks out and gets blood and gives the result in the evening at the most competitive rate possible. So entrepreneurship of those kinds will occur, and that will expand. So healthcare, multiple roles will occur, and I'm sure that's going to be the way the industry moves ahead, providing jobs. But more relevant now, Anita, what do you think in the current context of the disruption that's happened? What jobs are right? Should people go hunting for internships at this point of time? Should they go for higher studies? What do you think is the right way? And Jyotika Raghunath, who's one of our attendees, she has asked a pointed question that if it is internship, how do I go about getting an internship? Can you help me on that?
I'm going to give a little long answer.
Anita, your voice can't, you may have to come closer to the mic.
Yeah, I said I'm going to give a little long answer just to touch on many points. I think to your first point on networking, I just want to say one thing we all miss, and I think today is quite important. See, there is really a lot of organizations that are doing voluntary and philanthropic work, especially in this COVID time. I find that, you know, a lot of the students who volunteer and work there, they themselves come in touch with a lot of people who donate and, you know, I will say other philanthropists. And I know, you know, at least 4 or 5 instances during this COVID time when people have said, you know, you saw that boy, how, you know, dedicated he is. I think, you know, I'd like him to come and see me and see what it is. See, I think you don't even realize some of it, of this is networking. And I keep telling young people that, hey, go volunteer, you know, even if it is for 5-6 hours in a month. You never know when that relationship is really going to help you professionally. I think that's one thing I wanted to just add. We miss this more many times. Now, the second thing about internship, I think you should definitely, you know, look at internship. And when you said that, what can you do? I personally think that if you look at a set of target companies, don't necessarily look at the big companies, look at a lot of mid-sized companies. And today you can look at mid-sized companies, you know, you just, I will say, go through, watch the Economic Times, you know, for a month, you will figure out a lot of the good mid-sized companies. Just go to their websites and see, nearly everyone has a careers one. Write and say, I'm interested in this, you know, have some nice story about why you're interested in their place of work, and say, I'm willing to be, you know, an intern. I can tell you a lot of people writing to me for, you know, internships in, you know, and sometimes we see their background is interesting and we say, okay, we want to do some research. And I will say some of the good jobs I've hired have also been through that route. Not just now and, you know, and I know every company would talk about this experience. But, you know, I think you have to put a little, you know, effort to target a set of companies, go look at their websites, and you will find that people write, and in many cases, they do encourage. It's a little laborious, worth doing. See, the second, you know, thing, Mohan, I want to just say, you know, I have one of the girls who's working for me, and last year she said, well, you know, here's this multinational retail company, more salary and all that, I must go. I told her at that time, I said, it's fine, you go, you please, you know, find out how long it will sustain. Because anyway, she went, and sure enough, as soon as COVID started, within 2 months, they fired her. And, you know, hugely, you know, upset. And she was looking for a job for 3-4 months, and then she, you know, said to me, you know, ma'am, I was getting, you know, 12 lakhs with you. I, you know, went there thinking I'm going to get 16 lakhs. Now I'm getting I'm getting offers only at around 9-10 lakhs. And, you know, I'm now getting jobs that are, you know, on contract for 6 months. Should I take it or should I not take it? You know, because I passed up twice. And I told her that, see, you know, I think you have also to remember that people who play the game, both employers and employees, who take advantage of environment, situation, and so on. You know, you once you get in and say, I'm going to play that game, you have to be willing to accept that lower salary and say it's better to be working and in touch, because you can do the same thing, you can move out and go and the market will turn. And I think we should all be clear that the market is not going to turn for another 12 months. I would say it's going to definitely take another, from a hiring stance, it's going to definitely take, you know, 12 to 15 months for the market to, you know, turn, and for salaries to come back a little bit to what they were even last year. Because everyone will take advantage of this situation. I mean, even as employers, we are challenged. If you can get resources at lower salary, you're going to do it. And so, I think you should not get stuck up with, I had this salary in mind, or I was at this salary, what's going to happen if it gets lower? Mohan, I've had a lot of people tell me that, well, if I accept something at a lower salary, remember all my future employers are going to give me a markup only on that salary. And so it's better that I don't take that salary. See, I disagree a little bit on that, because I think if you have the skills, at the right time, you can also negotiate equally and you will get a job. But I always feel that if you have gaps in your career and you're sitting around, people are a little bit more worried about what does it mean? Why were you not getting a job, or were you having some other issue? And therefore, I think that it's always good to be doing something, whether internship, whether you're taking a salary at a low level or you're taking a contract job. But being in touch keeps you in the network, opens always more avenues, and salary is something you can always negotiate when the market is high. I mean, it's sometimes a buyer's market, sometimes a seller's market, and you have to look at your services and your, thought, I think, just, in that manner. So the point I wanted to also touch on is that, see, searching for jobs, you really have to do, as Vanita said, everything. Look in your place, look at whom you can approach. You need to do that. But you also need to make the concerted effort of saying that these are a set of target companies, and write into them, try to get to, meet with someone there and say that you are. Normally, if you are, a little bit persistent, and especially with mid-sized companies, they entertain you more. See, the large-sized companies are always a bad bet. They have very much established processes. They will not move away from it. And, I would not waste my energy on the large-sized companies.
Thanks, Anita. I think very well said. I think, Munish, over to you.
Thank you very much. I think this is really good. I think students are getting a lot of insights from both you and Anita and Vanita, to this. I'm a big optimist, and I always look into, what crisis, the opportunities this crisis is bringing in. Yes, there is a downfall. Yes, there are challenges, but I'm sure there are opportunities also coming in. Vanita, you have been an inspiration, I keep saying, and for women especially, my daughter runs a platform, Women the Inspiration. And I have some statistics in my head, courtesy her, is that women in the workforce is very low in India. We have around 27% of Indian women working, whereas the industry average is around 42%. So we have a long way to go in terms of, the women force participation. And if we are looking at $5 trillion economy, I think women have to play a very important role into this. Ladki bachao, ladki padhao happened, and the girls got educated, but after that, they are still not getting into the workforce. One more thing, I feel this work from home has opened a lot of opportunities for women to come into the workforce. What is your views on this? Vanita, I just wanted to get everyone to understand this.
Yeah, a very, very relevant subject, Monish, especially in today's environment. And let me also share one very funny statistic, which I came across a couple of years ago. And it seems quite bad that India, I mean, I'm sure all of you know that India stands very, very low on the global inequality index. UN does a comparison of countries which have placed gender parity. I mean, they do rank gender parity among all countries. And I think they did rank 153 nations. And sadly, India stands at the 112th position. And we actually slipped in the last 4 or 5 years. They look at 4 parameters. They look at education, they look at political empowerment, they look at economic participation, and they look at health and survival. Now, while as a nation, we have done extremely well in the educational parameter. Today, most of our women are being educated. We have education for all, especially for those in the urban settings, tier 1, tier 2, the metros, the tier 3 towns and things like that. But the funny statistic here is that India apparently is number 1 in the world for the number of overqualified homemakers. And what does that mean? No, that means that today, while we are sending our women to education, to get themselves qualified professionally, all the STEM disciplines, management, legal, medicine, you name it, we have women 50% on par with men. But when it comes to the workspace, and you mentioned 27%, but of late, last year, this survey was done, we just have 23.6% of women at the workplace, which is pretty sad. What does this actually show? That maybe the aspiration among those women who are educated to continue at the workspace is lacking, or maybe the infrastructure to allow women to sustain at the workplace is lacking, or by and large, women themselves don't even look at the need to actually be in the workspace beyond a certain milestone. There is a common phenomenon where families, maybe of the because of the prevalent socio-cultural contexts, families say that yes, you've studied, you can get yourself a job until either you get married or until you have children, and post that, no, you just come back to domesticity. That is actually affecting the nation today. And if you look at our country's GDP today, we are at about 2.9 trillion. We are still quite way back compared to the Western nations or the more developed nations. Let me not say Western, but the developed nations, because you have Japan, you have Germany, which have a fraction of our population and yet are contributing much more in terms of their GDP. A huge chunk of that population is unfortunately by women who are educated, but yet do not contribute economically to the country. Now, you might ask me why, what has the relation got to do with this? What's there? Yes, women are getting educated. What's there? They're quite financially well off. They really don't need to get a job and earn money because their families can take care of themselves. But this has certain repercussions in society. This has repercussions in future policy making, because women never get to sit on those boards or those forums where policies will be created tomorrow that will again affect the next generation. And that's where we see the gender disparity, we see the inequalities, we see the biases that again will not allow us to exploit our potential tomorrow. If we want to get either into the workspace, either we want to have our place under the sun in society or in politics, wherever you name it, we always seem to not have equal standing as men. So that is one of the major reasons why I always do urge women, especially, to continue in their career, despite challenges, despite obstacles. You phase it down in certain stages of your life, like when you're getting married or when you're having children. Yes, you can always come down 2 steps, but ensure that you stay relevant, that you skill yourself, that you come back to the workspace, and that you continue in your career until what is possible to you till the end of your lifetime. On the flip side, when a boy is born, nobody ever thinks, until he gets married, will he work, or until he has children, will he work? Because he's expected to work until his last day on this planet, and until he's physically able to actually work. Why don't we get that same sort of mindset to women also? And of course, sorry to say, a lot of us women itself, we sort of bring down, we contribute to not allowing women to the workspace. We have those unconscious biases. I know for a fact in my own company, quite some time ago, 10 years ago, when a lot of roles were opening up, the HR were always biased against recruiting women, because they would say, once this girl comes in, she'll get married, then she'll quit, she'll have children, she'll quit. So why do we want to invest so much in training this person when we would rather train a boy there? But if you look at the statistics, you train anybody, they might stick for some time and they might move on. So irrespective of what it is, you will have to ensure that you do create an equitable system where you allow the true merit to come into your organization. So yes, women need to understand their responsibility. They need to understand that unless They don't have a wish to join the workspace until that thought process doesn't get into your mind. You will have to ensure that you continue on your career going forward. So that is one point I would like to leave with, especially all the girls who are on this webinar, so that they do understand that they do have a responsibility to the nation after all. In pure economic or financial terms, if you invest in an asset, you look at some tangible returns and outcomes. Now, if we are investing in our girl child and getting her educated, I think the nation deserves some tangible outcome out of that. And that will only create a better quality of life, better infrastructure going forward, and things like that.
Well said, Vanessa. I think the women workforce, and we are still talking about the organized sector. If you look at the unorganized sector, the agriculture sector, the contribution of women is immense. And somehow factoring that into the indices of the work index needs to start coming in. I think that's an area of work even for the large multilateral organizations that are there. So coming to you, Anita, now, I think as we wind down, we also asked the audience, can we extend it by 10 minutes so we can answer more questions? About 70% of them said yes. So we'll go by the majority voice of democracy and extend by 10 minutes. So a few questions, last question to you, Anita, and after that, I'll take up a few questions asked by the students across the country. So the question to Anita is that when you start your career, you also want to understand how long should one stick to the first job, because there are multiple theories. One is a rolling stone doesn't gather moss. And second thing is that a stone has to stop only at a point where it finds value that it can contribute. So what's your take on that?
So, my take on that, Mohan, is that you should try to be at least a minimum of 2 years on your first job. Leaving before that means that you were, a wrong fit there. And I think that if I were to look at the first 6 years of a career, I would not want to see a person who has changed, has been on more than 2 jobs. Because unless you are there for a certain amount of time in the company, actually, no one can say what your track record is. And therefore, I would say that you should be on a, you should be at least not more jobs in the first 6 years. I know there are a lot of young people who have perhaps done 4 jobs by the time in their first 6 years. And I think it finally hurts them. So that's my, take. And I do a substantial amount of interviewing. And I will just say that, even today, while we are accepting of that, one thing I will say, Mohan, today, all of us are very accepting of people who take a break for entrepreneurship. In fact, today, unlike in the past, if someone has taken and, gone and tried his hand at entrepreneurship for a year or two and come back, actually, a lot of companies look at it very positively. They say that, okay, he's got some business understanding now, which is, better, which he may not have normally got in a company. So that is something also to bear in mind.
Okay.
Mohan, I can also say that, when we look at recruitment, we tend to normally see that a person, when they are moving jobs, at least they tend to stick for a minimum of 3 years in every company. So that will actually give them the ability to imbibe that industry domain expertise and to be able to start adding value moving forward. So I know it's tough. I mean, there are, as Anita has mentioned, 1.5 years, people just jump. Unless it's really a very bad fit, I would suggest that, at least try to be there for about anywhere between 2.5 to 3 years, and then move on to the next job.
We're talking the same context of people taking breaks. So I think the question has come from Janani, and she says that, can you tell me what are the strengths and weaknesses of an entrepreneur?
So Mohan, there are different types of, entrepreneurs. I mean, see, you can either be an entrepreneur because you're just very technically good in your product, but you have got maybe, I will say, average and marketing skills, but there is a niche for your product. Or you can be an entrepreneur who's, excellent in marketing and therefore can create a product. Finally, remember, there has to be a balance between your having a good product or service to offer and as well as good marketing and excellent customer service. to me, the one single most important thing is wherever you are, you have to be customer centric to the extreme. See, even today, I tell my clients, you call me 24 hours. There are many people below my team, but be sure as a CEO, I will answer the call even if it's 1 o'clock at night. And I think that, customer centricity and that extreme customer in front is the most important thing you need to have as an entrepreneur. The second thing is you have to have a reasonable understanding of commercials and financials if you have to survive. I think that's one of the most important things that I will say has helped me survive so many years. You just have these two. I think you'll do everything on your product service to make it happen.
So my take would be to ask you, would you ask the same thing for a mother? Would you ask a mother whether do you have strengths or weaknesses? You wouldn't, because ultimately an entrepreneur is having a baby, and that baby is your business, and you will do everything in your ability, in your capacity to ensure that that baby does grow up and grow well and become successful. So yes, you might have the skill sets, you may not have the skill sets, you might outsource your skill sets, you might develop a team, but ultimately ownership is yours and you are accountable. The buck stops at your table. So if you have that sort of a capacity, if you have that sort of a resilience, if you have the ability to fall and get back and fall and get back a number of times, then you will definitely become a good entrepreneur. If you do not have that capacity, it will become difficult. It will be it's a journey. It's a very tough journey. I mean, I'm sure no entrepreneur will tell you that it was success and no smooth sailing all the while. So one has to be totally prepared, and it is a 24/7, 365.
Very true, very true. I think Subrata Bakshi actually has written a great book for students should read that on entrepreneurship, and his life history on how he became an entrepreneur, starting off being the CIO of Wipro and starting with first office in the US, and then starting off Mindtree after that, and becoming a serious entrepreneur is a great story to read. So Munish, you want to kick off the last question to Vanita, our favorite question on work from home?
I think, see, work from home, if I ask, I was a banker, I keep having this joke with my fellow banker friends, that had I asked our legal and compliance 9 months back, can we work from home? They would have said, are you nuts? Are you crazy what you are saying? And today, all those BPOs and KPOs and all those bankers, they are sitting at home and working. I am a traveler. I travel a lot, but for last 9 months, I have virtually not gone to the airport. So, with work from home, how is this whole new this world changing? Remote working. What are the opportunities coming, Vanita? What do you feel?
I think there remains opportunities, and if you look at a silver lining that the pandemic brought about, definitely this flexibility for a person to work from anywhere. Technology has come to certain levels where it has helped everybody to still stay connected. I mean, if you had asked me work from home maybe 2 decades back, this would definitely not have been the case. But I think today, these sort of disruptions have created the ability to work from wherever, as long as you have a good connection and as long as you maintain ethical standards and you maintain industry perspectives, you will be able to contribute value to your organization. So work from home is here to stay, I'm sure. Different ways in which one can actually do that will definitely evolve in the coming years, I'm sure. So this is a huge opportunity for those, especially for girls now. So people coming from conservative backgrounds, conservative families, it's a huge opportunity for them to at least get into the workspace through the work from home. And then later on, the hybrid models are going to be there. There will be few days working from home, few days going to the office space or working at some co-working space. Because I'm sure that the industry is going to change going forward, even if it's a manufacturing. So today, manufacturing concerns are not allowing you to work from home. And today, my own company, I have 90% of my staff working from home, whereas I have about 10 to 15% of my employees who actually come because they need to be there on the shop floor. But tomorrow, with the advent of, say, 3D printing and other technologies, probably even manufacturing activities can also happen from home. Who knows? I mean, that's the impact of technology today. So anything can happen, and one needs to just be prepared. What is necessary is, are you willing to get yourself trained and upskilled in that environment so that you will still continue to be relevant to the workplace? And that is what you need to start working for yourself. So I'll stop there, Monishji.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I think this is amazing. KG, over to you.
All we can say is that, Nita and Vanita, I think the students have lapped up your advice. I think the good part of our entire discussion today has been that you haven't dwelt only about your lives. You have brought them to a state where what relates to them to the current state in the economy. And I think students have dreams. They are going to aspire for the moon. They're going to find obstacles at some point of the time in life. It can be the early career or mid-career or end career. But the fact remains is that how you evolve as a leader, how you evolve as a person working in an organization occurs right through your career. And the starting point is always when you come out of the starting block of a college. And those who always felt that job starts when a college graduation ends is not true. It starts the day when you enter the college. You can start internships and you can start learning, take part in small activities and jobs. And I think students today are quite aware of that. The only problem with them has been that where do I go and look for answers? Google is always an answering point, but Google and Quora can't give you the wealth of experience that people have. And that has been our focus on these webinars, that people with depth come and speak, no superficial answers. People who have actually got scarred during their journey of life, if they give answers, like if Vanita talks about how she fell when she was on a mountain trek, or Anita talks about how she struggled getting payments back from people whom she consulted for and who struggled to pay her. Those answers are very relevant for students today. So thanks a lot for participating in this webinar and helping our students understand that the light is definitely there at the end of the tunnel, and it is not a train coming. It's basically the light of post-COVID, where they will again see a different world emerging. And the new world may not be the same as the old world, but surely it will be a world. This planet has been there for about 4.5 billion years. It's going to last for 5 billion years more, and the journey continues. So thanks a lot once again. So Munish, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vanita, and thank you very much, Anita, for being part of this webinar series. I'm sure students must have, taken a lot from you. You both are really an inspiration to all the students who are there, and there are a lot of good takeaways. The journey to, for Student Banega Atma Nirbhar continues. We are on a mission, and to get every student in our country get sustainable livelihood. That is the mission which we are going for. Har Student Banega Atma Nirbhar is the campaign which we are working on. Every student, every college, tier 2, tier 3 college, BA, BCom, BSc, whosoever is there, is supposed to become, Atma Nirbhar. Thank you very much for attending and giving us your support. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And all the best to everybody.
Thank you.
Photograph, please.
Yes.
One, two, and three.
Thanks, Srishti. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Srishti. Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Manishji. And thank you, Anita.
Very nice meeting you, Anita, too.
Nice meeting you too.
Bye.
Bye.